The strong wind signal number 3 is still in force. The need for higher signals will be assessed early tomorrow. The disbursement of $2,000 worth of consumption vouchers. And South Korea pledges to give Ukraine more non-lethal military aid. Hello and happy Sunday. The strong wind signal number 3 is still in force. The observatory says depending on severe tropical storm Talim's movement, it will assess the need to issue the gale or storm signal number 8 between midnight and tomorrow morning. Timothy Lee has the top story.
Even though severe tropical storm Talim is edging closer to the region, Hong Kong's weather remained generally fine in the morning. In Big Wave Bay on Hong Kong Island, several people braved the crashing waves even as red flags were hoisted on the beach, warning the public against entering the water. One person nearly drowned in the water and had to be rescued by lifeguards. He managed to leave on his own later. Over in Lei Moon, a low-lying coastal area that often suffers from flooding during typhoons, the Drainage Services Department provided local residents with sandbags to fend off the water. Some homes even installed flood barriers to prevent potential flooding. Many stores chose to keep their doors closed today. This shopkeeper says she's more worried about the flooding than the typhoon, adding that she hopes the sandbags will prevent the water from entering into her restaurant. This woman noted that tour groups will not come visit her shop at this time, and many tour groups were cancelled. She said her business loses around $30,000 whenever a typhoon arrives. Hung Fa Chun, famous for being another area most hard hit by strong winds, remained relatively quiet this morning. But the Housing Estates Management Office has already begun preparing for possible flooding. Some housing units and shops in the shopping mall have already taped their windows. Meanwhile, the observatory announced that depending on the movement of Talim, it will assess the need to issue the gale or storm signal number 8 between midnight and tomorrow morning. The tropical storm is expected to sweep past the region about 300 kilometers to the south of the SAR tomorrow morning. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Macau issued the number 3 typhoon warning signal at 5:30 p.m. today. The weather began to worsen with occasional showers in the afternoon. Macau's weather service has forecast thunderstorms and strong winds later today. Talim is expected to come close to 200 kilometers south of the enclave tomorrow morning, with local authorities noting there is a medium chance of hoisting the number 8 signal. A blue storm surge warning level is currently in effect, with sections of the city predicted to experience flooding between 5 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Monday. A woman was injured by a falling tree at Repulse Bay. She was sent to hospital in a semi-conscious state. An image provided by a viewer showed a non-Chinese woman trapped under a tree. Several lifeguards who were there assisted with the rescue work. The police revealed reports at 4 p.m. of a woman who was hit on the head by a 20-meter-tall falling tree in Nam Wan. Meanwhile, on Yixing Street in Chai Wan, tree branches measuring 3 meters long fell onto the pavement at around 3 p.m. Authorities have cordoned off the area and no injuries have been reported. Meantime, several pieces of concrete fell onto Tung Choi Street in Mong Kok, hitting 2 vehicles. No injuries were reported. The incident occurred on 196 Tung Choi Street at around 2 in the afternoon. Authorities received reports of concrete pieces measuring 5 by 3 centimeters hitting the top and windows of 2 private cars. No one was injured. Earlier this month, there were 3 incidences of falling concrete in Mong Kok involving a building on Tong Mi Road and another one on Mong Kok Road. And starting today, the second installment of consumption vouchers is available for collection. However, this does not apply to around 1 million people whose Octopus cards still contain value from the previous disbursement. They must wait until the middle of next month. Mimo Singai tells us more.
On Sunday morning, people queued to use the Octopus Surface Point and Lockville Station for one purpose, to collect $2,000, the second installment of the consumption vouchers. This woman was pleased with the vouchers, saying she would spend the money on daily necessities. Not everyone shared the same joy. Individuals who failed to spend the total value from the last round before June 30th will not be able to collect the $2,000. This man, for instance, who believes the spending requirement is misleading, he added clearer instructions should have been given from Octopus, reminding residents of such a rule. Financial Secretary Paul Chan, meanwhile, started his morning by spending vouchers at Typhoon Market, where he had breakfast and bought snacks and vegetables. Chan said the 1 million Octopus card users unable to receive the new round of vouchers today will receive it on August 16th if they can meet the spending requirement by the end of July. The last day to do so is the end of October, he added. To get the party going, the catering sector launched another round of July 1st dining discounts. For example, all dishes at this chain restaurant in Mong Kok offered a discount of 31%. The restaurant owner said he was unconcerned about the potential impact of Typhoon Talim on the business. Rather, he anticipated the bad weather will bring more customers to the other branches of the chain, such as those located within the residential areas. Memos 9, TVB News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was rushed to hospital Saturday night, diagnosed with dehydration. But by Saturday morning, he was still undergoing medical tests. This as tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets of Tel Aviv Saturday for the 28th straight week, demonstrating against his plan to overhaul the country's judiciary. Tracy Furness has more.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu experienced dizzy spells Saturday night at his private residence in coastal Caesarea. He was rushed to hospital where the diagnosis was dehydration. His office said Netanyahu had spent Friday at the Sea of Galilee, a popular vacation spot in northern Israel, where temperatures climbed to about 40 degrees Celsius. He had not been wearing a hat or drinking water. Not a good idea, the 73-year-old leader said on a social media video last night from hospital. He also said he was feeling well. Netanyahu was discharged from hospital around midday on Sunday. Meanwhile, 100,000 people took to the streets of Tel Aviv on Saturday to protest the 28th consecutive week against the government's planned judicial overhaul. Netanyahu's government gave initial approval to a key portion of the overhaul earlier this week. In response, protesters blocked major highways in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The bill aims to curb court independence, giving Netanyahu's allies control over the appointment of judges and giving parliament power to overturn court decisions.
We came to be part of this amazing mass that comes every week, hundreds of thousands of people coming for a nonviolent protest to save the Israeli democracy and really make sure that this wonderful project here of innovation and richness of pluralism and free spirit, free speech continues, and make sure that the government gets the message and accordingly stops this terrible legislation.
Critics of the bill say it will upset the country's fragile system of checks and balances and concentrate power in the hands of Netanyahu and his allies. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
According to Ukrainian officials, a civilian was killed by Russian shelling while 7 were injured in a village in Zaporizhia. Intense fighting is reported along the 1,500-kilometer front line as Ukraine says it continues to make gains in its counteroffensives to reclaim territory captured by Russia. Meanwhile, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol visited Kyiv and pledged to provide more non-lethal military aid. Nazvi Karim has more.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol comes to Kyiv bearing gifts. But while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appreciates the gesture, deep inside he's probably wondering why South Korea can't be more like Western allies and offer weapons. Seoul recently came under pressure during the NATO summit to help arm Ukraine. Yoon, though, is adhering to the policy of not supplying weapons to countries that are in the middle of a conflict. So all Yoon could appease Zelensky with was $150 million worth of non-lethal military supplies in the form of body armor, helmets, and humanitarian aid for post-war reconstruction. Last year, South Korea sold almost $14 billion worth of weapons to Poland, including fighter jets, making it the world's 9th biggest supplier of arms. Zelensky later said he was trying to maintain international ties to help restore peace in Ukraine. He said the speed of ending the war directly depends on global support for Ukraine. Said its forces prevented a Ukrainian attack on the Black Sea port of Sevastopol, destroying 7 aerial drones and 2 underwater drones. Maritime transport services, including passenger ferries, were suspended for several hours in the midst of the attack. Ukraine says at least 1 civilian was killed when Russia shelled a town in the Zaporizhzhia region. 16 buildings were damaged in Zaporizhzhia city, with Moscow saying several Ukrainian weapons depots were destroyed over the past few days. Meanwhile, reports from Belarus say fighters from the Wagner private army, who featured in the aborted mutiny against the Russian defense minister on June 24th, have started to arrive in the country. As part of an immunity deal, the fighters were moved to Belarus and Moscow would drop treason charges. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Welcome back. Much of southern Europe remains in the grip of a record-breaking heat wave. More than a dozen cities in Italy are under weather advisories. Spain and Greece are also sweltering. David Garrett reports.
The Colosseum has stood in Rome for nearly 2,000 years, but has rarely known heat like this. Sizzling in temperatures of over 35 degrees, the Italian capital was one of 15 cities under a heat advisory, signalling a high level of risk for the old, very young and vulnerable. Some found it too hot to move.
It's really, really terrible. We're used to the hot in Rome, but not this hot. I feel like this year it's been hotter than usual.
If you want to come in Rome next year, I usually suggest to come either in September, late September, or beginning of May, because in this period it's really hard to cope with the heat.
Tourists also tried to find the shade on gondolas in Venice. Here in the northern part of Italy, temperatures were a cooler 30. But other holiday destinations like Florence and Bologna felt similar heat to Rome. Meteorologists in Italy are predicting at least 42 degrees Celsius this week, and some think the country's all-time record could be broken. The island of Sicily recorded 48.8 degrees in August 2021. A third of all Americans are under heat advisories. Wildfires burned outside of Los Angeles. Residents were forced to flee their homes. On the other side of the country, in Miami, it was too hot to sit on the beach. 118 degrees Fahrenheit, or 48 degrees Celsius, was recorded in Phoenix, Arizona, a record. The 16th day in a row with a temperature over 43. Another record. Hospitals were inundated with people suffering from heat stroke. Las Vegas is expected to at least match its hottest ever day of 47 degrees on Sunday. And in Death Valley, California, where it is already 46, there are predictions the mercury could top 54.4 degrees Celsius this weekend. David Garrett, TVB News.
South Korean rescue workers have pulled at least 8 bodies from vehicles trapped in a flooded tunnel in the central part of the country. Around 15 vehicles, including a bus, were trapped when a flash flood filled the tunnel with 5 meters of water. 400 rescue workers were seen trying to get to people as muddy water was pumped out. 9 are known to have survived, but it's difficult for authorities to know the exact number of people that were in the tunnel when the flood hit on Saturday evening. They are estimating up to 20 people may have been killed. Some are blaming the government for not closing the road amid torrential downpours. Across the country, the death toll is over 30, with landslides and flooding destroying buildings and bringing down trees. The country has been pummeled by heavy rain for more than a week. Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development Algernon Yao said he's confident some leading enterprises in certain fields, such as technology and innovation, will invest in Hong Kong by December. Mimo Sengai reports.
Good morning.
SAR officials in Chief Executive John Lee's administration have led many delegations on visits overseas, hoping to promote the advantages and potential of the city.
innovation and technology.
Speaking on the TVB program, Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development Algernon Yao, who just returned from a trip to Thailand, said authorities have managed to attract 186 enterprises to Hong Kong in the first 5 months of the year. However, he said not all foreigners have a comprehensive understanding of the city due to some incorrect news reporting overseas.
I took the opportunity to meet with the chambers from the ASEAN countries and also the business sectors in Thailand to explain to them regarding the business opportunities in Hong Kong, despite all this incorrect reporting by the media regarding NSL and the business environment here.
Speaking on the types of leading enterprises the SAR authorities wish to attract to Hong Kong, Yao said strategic enterprises including innovation and technology and data science. Moreover, he believes the government can reach its target by the end of this year, getting in touch with around 300 leading enterprises. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations earlier passed a resolution calling for an end to the privileges and exemptions for the city's economic and trade officers in America, or even an end to their operations. Yao said the government strongly opposed that, calling it totally unacceptable.
The ETO are doing their job in promoting commercial, business, education, art and culture. So I don't see any reason why there is a need to close down those offices. And of course, we will try our best to convince people to support us to retain those offices in the United States.
Currently, Hong Kong has 14 ETOs overseas. Yao said the government may set up offices in Africa and Central Asia in future. Memos 9, TVB News.
The Hong Kong SAR Search and Rescue Team has been awarded the Chief Executive's Award for bravery in their first overseas assignment when they conducted rescue operations after the devastating earthquake in Turkey earlier this year. The team plans to enhance its rescue capacity by equipping themselves with more supporting tools and doubling up on non-stop simulation training hours. Sakura Ip reports.
When searching over a broad area of the earthquake site, this drone became eyes of a point man, with the clock ticking in a life and death battle against time. It can generate 3D images of the site after 30 minutes, which provides the team with a quick grasp of the site terrain and helps to shorten search time.
This 360 camera can help the team locate survivors and get an understanding of the general condition under the rubble. The information can help the team come up with a rescue plan.
Aftershocks can occur in any moment during the rescue. This metal shoring strut, which can bear multiple tons of load, provides strong support for the team to venture on the rubble and dig an escape gate for survivors. The alarm system on the strut alerts rescuers to evacuate if an aftershock is detected. These life-saving tools help the Hong Kong SAR Search and Rescue Team save 4 lives in Turkey after the devastating earthquake, which took nearly 60,000 lives in February this year. After its first operation overseas since it was founded in 2009, the team decided to equip themselves with more advanced supporting tools.
We did have a time that we lost our communication with our frontline teams. We are now looking for some maybe satellite communication equipment, more efficient, so that we can communicate with the frontline people and also back to the Hong Kong support team.
The team aims to enhance training by Q1 next year, not only by doubling the duration of non-stop simulation training from 36 hours into 72 hours, but by also taking the training elsewhere.
The venue, we are planning to be in a training center in the Greater Bay Area, which can more simulate the real situation that our members will have to work for a long period of time in a not familiar weather and a not familiar place, so that they can feel what they are going to face in a real-time situation.
The team is working on an online platform to share training materials with rescue teams from the Greater Bay Area. It also prepares for drills with teams from Singapore as well as other cities in the region. Sakura Ip, TVB News.
That that is the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.